What's uppers? This Jose with Oakland Latinos United, aka Oakland Latinos Unidos, live with Jay on here with number 62, episode 62. Hopefully, you guys are tapping in. Let's get more people to tap in. So, tonight we're going to have a guest. We're going to have my homie Mazatal, who's from the 209 area from the Central Valley, and he's going to come and talk to us about some serious issues. Tonight, we're not going to be joking around or making cheeseburger jokes. Tonight it's something more serious. When I do my live with Jays, they're more on serious topics. So we're going to talk about his life basically growing up and also him being a Chicano or Raza veteran or military veteran and the struggles that he's had being a veteran and how some community groups don't like the fact that he's a veteran. We're also going to talk about PTSD because he is a major in psychology, and we're going to talk about PTSD coming from a war situation, and also about PTSD within the Latino, Raza, Chicano, whatever you want to call it, community in general, especially those of us who have grown up in the hood. He is a history, not a history major. I'm a history major. He is a psychology major, so he knows a lot about it. And we're going to talk about other miscellaneous things also going on with him in the community and how he discovered the indigenous way of life and why he's following that and all those good things. So I think he's in the crowd. Hey, leave a comment if you're out there. Mazatal, Joaquin Stanislaw, I think is your name on here. Like that, I could send you the link and you could be joining us in and we could start the conversation. So let me know if you're in there, bro. Leave me a message and say, hey, I'm here. So what's up to everybody? Shortcuts. What's up to Esepeda? What's up to Telly Savalas? You know what I mean? I want to, what's up, Don Suave? We're going to have the guest tonight, the homie Mazatal. Let me know if, okay, he's in here. All right, let me send you the link real quick like that. You could join me and we could get it started, get it cracking and have more people on here. And we could have a good discussion. Again, tonight is not a joking night. I know that I've been on danking and drinking, joking around with the homie Big Mike, but tonight is not that. Tonight is not live with Jay, and when I have my live with Jay, it's more on a serious subject, more on something to think about. So, you know what I mean? Don't expect to be on for me to be on here joking around about cheeseburgers and about Twinkies and stuff. It's not happening tonight, guys. Tonight is a serious night, so if you later on, if you want to join the conversation, keep it serious, por favor. You know what I mean? Keep it on topic, But to the homie Mazatal, I just sent you the link. Hopefully you can link up. I just sent it to you right now. Link up and we'll get it started, brother. I told you we would do this today. I want to have guests on more often, bro, for they could talk about their story, talk about what they're doing in the community. You know what I mean? All them good things. You know me, bro. I always like to have people thinking, There we go. He's joining us now. Let me let him in. You know what I mean? All them good things. You know me, bro. I always like to have. Hey, put your thing on mute, bro, because it's echoing. You know what I mean? All the good things. You know me, bro. My bad. So what's up, bro?
Oh, brother, just out here doing it. I give you my word, my palabra, that I was going to show up and support. So, I'm a little on the tired side, but, like you said, PTSD had me up at 3 a.m.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I couldn't sleep. I had to take one of my other brothers to the airport in San Jose. He's leaving out to work in Texas.
Orale.
But, yeah.
Well, thanks for being on, bro. If you're tired, I get it.
Yeah, but, I got my water. I got my juice, so. But, that's part of being of service to others is that if people knew that they could get through their PTSD being of service to their community and sacrificing for somebody else or a greater cause than themselves, and I'm not talking about gangs or drugs because they always talk about la causa or, pledge your allegiance to the neighborhood or a certain group of people. But when you're real humble and you're doing right for yourself on a spiritual journey, you can grow from that because it's not about you.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start. Let's start from, me, bro. I like to start from the bottom and work our way up to the top. So
okay.
Let's talk a little bit about you. Give us an introduction, your name, and where you're from, and what was it like growing up Chicano where you grew up, bro? Or what was your life like growing up? And then we'll talk about how you ended up in the military, and then how about the being a veteran. We'll talk about all that in sections.
Okay, so I was born in the '80s, and I was born in the Central Valley,
Mm-hmm.
and more importantly in Merced. But I was raised around the Modesto area, right?
Whatever.
So I'm one out of 10 children.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Okay, so we grew up in a lot of poverty, and eventually my parents called it quits. As devout Catholic and as devout Christians that they were, they just clashed. My mom was a third generation Tejana from West Texas, and my dad was first generation paisano from Jalisco.
Okay.
So I didn't grow up like most kids that grow up where their parents are both from one place. They're both from Mexico, or they're both immigrants, or they're both Chicanos, or they're both Tejanos, or they're both Native Americans, or whatever. The area of the Central Valley is a very agricultural based giant, just like the tech giant of the Bay Area. So I grew up picking crops,
What
and
was
because
that
I have
like? What was that like?
extremely demanding, very hard. You're working with almonds, you're working with apricots, you're working with different fruits, pipelines and stuff, irrigation. And it wasn't like I was forced to do it, but I needed money. So, a lot of summers it was either that or landscaping with my uncle in the East Bay,
Okay.
Pittsburgh, Antioch, Concord area down that way, and all the suburbs around there.
And then you told me you had family like in Pittsburgh, Antioch area, right?
Yeah, I still have a lot of family up that way.
Yeah.
And so I had family up that way, and I had family in Los Angeles, San Diego that I wasn't really close to. And obviously throughout the San Joaquin Central Valley, but also other people throughout the Bay Area. Like there's acquaintances in Oakland, there's acquaintances in San Jose, there's acquaintances in San Francisco,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it was I didn't have an identity. So living in a gang neighborhood, having an older brother who'd hang around with gang members, having older cousins that would hang out with gang members, um, I gravitated towards that. I gravitated towards hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
People who would steal cars, people who'd gang bang, who'd do drugs. I mean, this is the '90s we're talking about now, right? The
Yeah.
height of the gang war, street war. The whole civil rights era had already died out in the '80s. So to me, I didn't know anything. United Farm Workers, Brown Berets, Black Berets, um, Young Lords, American Indian Movement. All that was foreign to me, right? Even though the United Farm Workers had a staple out there in the
What's up,
San
Big
Joaquin
Mike?
Valley.
Yeah.
So I started drifting towards, you know, drugs at a very young age. Pornography was also around at a very young age. Gangs, violence, people getting jumped at the park, fighting over cigarettes, and J catting off. I
Yeah.
started to see this a lot. I started going to LA, getting hit up in LA, getting seeing just this cholo culture just take form, and people being very predatory.
So
So I had to be careful because people were getting punked and stuff like that. And eventually, I had to fight back. You know,
yeah. So I was gonna ask you one thing about the fields. So when you were working in the fields, people get it was all Raza, right? That works
no,
there.
no. So the people that are in charge are typically either European people that are like their roots are like Portuguese or Dutch or Spaniard, or the people that are in charge, the people that own the land are
Yeah.
usually European descent, and they're usually coming in to be in charge. Now, the people that they handpick, it's a mixed bag of people. They can put somebody who's a woman in charge, who's Chicana, somebody who knows both languages, somebody who they handpick who they want in charge. They can put a paisano or a Chicano. So it varied.
But I'm talking about the grunt work. Basically, is done mostly by Raza. Basically.
Yeah, the grunt work was done by different kinds of raza. You could be from Mexico City, you could be from El Salvador, you could be Chicano, you could be Guatemalan. It was just any brown people. I'm going to use the word brown people or in Southern Indigenous.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like the Filipinos and the Okies, they were already gone from the fields by this point, right?
Long gone.
Yeah,
To see somebody who is other than Raza, brown, or Southern Indigenous, you could count them on one hand. They were pretty much, non-existent, or it was just onesies and twosies.
yeah,
Um, and like I said, out of the places that I was, they were usually high-ranking people. They weren't going to be doing the grunt work, quote
yeah,
unquote. Right?
yeah. I feel you. So, okay, so now we're gonna get to the part of when you started going to school, and then or I don't remember if you told me you went to school and then you somehow ended up in the military and then you went to war. So how did that come about?
Well, the violence, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of resources, network.
Hmm.
I came into a group when I was about 16, 17 that taught me indigenous roots, and based on the Mexica calendar, painting murals, wearing T-shirts, wearing indigenous necklace to the high school that I went to. Right. Um, Now, the people from Mexico and El Salvador who had the phenotype or that looked indigenous, they were embarrassed to represent. Unlike the Bay Area, where they have a lot more, I would say, numbers and resources, and people bend over backwards for them. In the Central Valley, people don't give a damn if you're a paisa, if you're an immigrant. You're just one other poor person, another mouth to feed. Back then, people weren't balling, and the whole influx of people in the Bay Area didn't start till about 2000, 2001. So if you did have Bay Area people, they were typically black or Chicanos who had money from Oakland or San Jose.
Mm.
You had a couple people, Union City, Dakota, Fremont. You might have a couple of people from Hayward that were Puerto Rican. You might have a couple of people that were from some other place, right? Maybe Newark, maybe Concord, maybe the outskirts of San Francisco.
Yeah,
But back then, the main issue that was happening was poverty. Everybody was poor. Everybody was trying to get out of poverty. So the paisanos, they didn't get as pampered or preferable treatment like they do in the Bay Area with the sanctuary cities. If you got caught slipping out there, you were drunk, beating a woman, picking up a hooker, the cops and the sheriffs that were white, they'd snatch you up. They'd probably beat you up. They'd probably lock you up and deport you.
yeah,
That's the big difference, I would say, that with the Bay Area. The Bay Area, you fuck around, they give you chances. You can wiggle. You can get some extra help if you really
yeah.
want.
Especially places like San Francisco, for sure. I could see that.
And
Yeah.
so
So
I noticed this, and I said, you know what? I need to get out of here. The gang issues are getting serious. Not to put too much on it, but a lot of the people that I love and I hang out with were getting put in bad situations with other people out in the street, and so it was kind of alarm. Like, I need to get out of here. I need some time. I need to buy myself some time, and I need to go somewhere else because things are getting too hot. Stabbings, shootings, jumpings.
what's up, Brown 96?
Yeah, we're just out of control. So I opted to graduate. I was one of the few people in my own family to walk the stage and graduate and not go to continuation school or independent study. And I don't knock anybody that does. So,
Yeah,
so, so, hey, if you got your GPA, if you went independent study or continuation or whatnot, hey, good for you. I just chose the latter way, the opposite way. And then I got into a program. I got into a Job Corps program out of state. They got me into the military, into the Marines. As I was smoking weed and I was fucking around, tests to me, remembering stuff because of my mind, have always been a challenge.
yeah,
So instead of getting locked up, going to jail, or getting killed out in the streets like most youth, I just dipped. I dipped to every city you could think of, and I dipped out of
you even
state.
ended up in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, I have family in the Midwest. I have family in New York. I have family in Texas. I have family in different areas. So, some of these programs were in Utah. The military was in North Carolina in the South, Virginia, South Carolina. So I dipped. But it was a culture shock. When you go to those places, it's a culture shock. Just like going to LA or the Bay Area, it's a culture shock. The
Yeah,
weather's
you're
different.
not from there, basically.
Yeah, well, two things. Most people can sniff you out and say, "Oh, he's not from there. He doesn't talk, or he doesn't vibe with us, or I don't know him." So you
Yeah.
stand out like the sore thumb. So people are very territorial,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, "Oh, you're not from here." One of the things in San Francisco that they would do in the Bay Area is they'd ask you what school you went to, what elementary school you went to, what high school you went to, and that's how you were considered a native in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Versus in San Jose, where the Chicanos want to know what gang neighborhood you're affiliated with. Are you affiliated with East Side San Jose, East Side Hoods?
So you don't think you find that in the Central Valley, that mentality?
You only find it in the Central Valley. When I was growing up, is if you were new at the high school and you were a Bay Area person or a person from Los Angeles, and you would come in and you tell everybody, "Hey, I'm from the Bay. I'm from Oakland. I'm from East Oakland." So a lot of the people there felt some type of way when people would announce where they were from,
Yeah.
and kind of throw their weight and command respect. So a lot of people that are poor and chip on their shoulder will be like, "It don't matter where you're from. It matters
Yeah.
where you're at." That was
Yeah.
that
I
was a
like the
big catchy
culture.
thing they used to say there in the Central Valley, and some people would embrace it. If you were sophisticated, if you were in a gang and you click with some of the people, they liked it. But if you rubbed people the wrong way and kind of flossed the credit that you were from a big city,
Mm-hmm.
you started to push a wedge between yourself and the people around you. And for
It,
some people, it created a lot of fist fights.
that's kind of how I felt in Sacramento, because when I went out there, I didn't know nobody. I was new to the city, and I didn't feel
Right.
very welcome because people were like, "Where are you from? I never seen you around." So I kind of get it. But anyway, so you
Right.
ended up in the Midwest, and then you went to like Utah, Milwaukee, and those areas. I believe you said Milwaukee. Talk about how you ended up from there to the military, and then we'll talk about your military duty. You don't have to get into details, but the
Right.
military in general. What's up, Sneaky Beanie? What's
So
up, Rick
so
Wallace?
uh when I ended up in Wisconsin, it was an all white school that was like 100 years behind the Central Valley. The people that were of color, whether you were Hawaiian, whether you're Native American, whether you're Raza, brown, indigenous, brown people, you were at the bottom of the totem pole. It was all country redneck people. And my dad, even though he knew English, even though at this point he was a citizen, he would work to buy properties out there and rent them. But before that, he was working at a dairy, at a farm,
Yeah.
doing manual labor. Him being a laborer from a countryside of Mexico, he went back to that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So
Milwaukee's a dairy place, huh?
no, it was outside of Milwaukee, outside of Green Bay. Those are
Well, I mean,
cities.
the Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, the country part, it has a lot of Native American reservations, but it's known for its cheese,
Yeah,
cheesehead,
yeah.
Kobe cheese. So my dad, that
That's
was
why
the
they
only
call the Packers the team because of that.
right. So my dad ended up, tapping into that. At first, I guess he was a janitor and he did all kinds of other work, but he hated cleaning the women's bathroom, so he decided to do that. Eventually, he retired out of a warehouse working doing furniture, like I guess chairs and armoires and couches. But when I went out there to school, everybody dressed preppy.
Mm.
If you wore something with a sports team or a sweater, that was considered radical, right?
Yeah.
So you know, and they wanted me to enlist into the National Guard. This is way before. This is a couple years way before 9/11. So I enlisted, and then I told my dad, you know what? I want to go back. I want to finish my high school in the Central Valley where I'm from. I got this newfound confidence. I got a weight system. I was lifting weights. I was clean cut, and I went back, and I had left the gangster mentality of dressing. With the Cortez and the
Yeah.
bandanas and the Dickies and the flannels and the hairnets and I used to put all that on, right? From time to time, I might slip it on, right? So I went back, got into some trouble right off the bat, suffered a couple of deaths in my family, and so I opted to get into the Job Corps program and leave to Utah to buy me some more time, and to get into the Marines, and I did that. A lot of the people, because for whatever reason I had a record and I had a drug cases where I popped in the piss test, and they found ways to nitpick of where I was from in the valley. They held that against me, and a lot of these people were Chicanos from Southern California, Southsider dudes
Mm-hmm.
from San Diego. They had the 3 dots or tattoos on their hands that said San Diego and all that stuff, so they would hate on me. But I found a way to just go to another state where you could get recruited, because within that state or the neighboring states, they might get 11 or 12 people max. And we're talking about 5 or 6 states outside of California. California is a big recruiting ground, so they don't hurt for people south
Yeah.
of San Jose and north of San Diego. So I left, got into the Marines, and right off the bat, it was like people were dying in boot camp. People were committing suicide. There was fights in the shower room, and I had to fight. I had to get down with some people.
It was that bad, huh?
There was Southerners. There was a lot of Southerners. There was a lot of people, white boys from Texas, people from Midwest, different places, and it was just. I seen a dude do a Superman swan dive off of a third story,
Fuck.
and crack his spine, and he's bleeding out. And instead of me saying something, because we're in line trying to go into the chow hall, I just let him. I'm like, he found a way out. There was people at night running and hopping the fence because the airport was there. I seen a guy. We were jogging, and it's hot in San Diego, and it's like a little sand beach. And I guess he had asthma, so he collapsed, and he looked at me like a fish, and he died.
Wow.
Right. So there was a lot of stuff happening there. But I was like, you know what? I don't have any choice. I come from a poor background. I'm 1 out of 10 kids. My parents ain't supportive. They're very poor. Their whole mindset to this day is work and read your Bible. That's it. You got a problem, pray about it. You know your back hurts, or you're having a flashback or PTSD, just work.
Yeah.
They didn't teach any culture to me. My dad would take us to Mexico in the 80s, but that wasn't enough. Even though I was a citizen, we were kind of moonwalking back to Mexico in the 80s, which I never understood that. But
so your family wasn't like I told you how my family was, that we would take outings like to Lake Merritt, or to like the Alameda Beach, or to the flea market in San Jose, or we would always go on outings with the family. Your family wasn't like that. It was always like there was somewhat of a cultural diversity, a little bit.
Well, when my dad was around, he would take us to the flea market and the church and to the East Bay, to Pittsburgh. If he was doing something, it had to be with other family members, like a barbecue,
Okay,
or the flea market, or wherever they wanted to go. He didn't want to take us individually, and if he did, he would take us like to pizza or eat hamburgers. Like that was his American way of doing things. Like he didn't have. There was so many of us, they didn't have the funds to take us out to a beach or a zoo. Now, my mom's family took us out to Stockton. They used to have a Mickey's Grove out there. So we would do that up into the early 90s to like 93, right?
Mm.
And they would have barbecues and outings, even though everybody hated each other on my mom's side of the family. They would do that.
Yeah. Did you ever go to the Manteca water slides?
No.
I remember those. I remember they used to advertise those even in the Bay Area.
Yeah, my dad he'd go to LA, he'd go to the East Bay, he'd go to flea markets, he'd take us to flea markets, he would take us to barbecues, he would take us to Concord Flea Market, Stockton, those places. But as far as like an amusement park, it wasn't until later on in life.
Mm. No, I did get to go to like Great America and those spots when I was a kid a few times. Not a lot, but a few times.
See, my parents, they're not into sports. Like I said, they're into two things: God and work. So even just going to the flea market, or just going to Mexico or LA or the East Bay was a big logistics when you got that many kids.
Yeah, I feel it.
So
So all right, you're in the boot camp. So from there, how long did it take for you to get shipped out to actual war? Because obviously, 9/11 happened, the Iraq War happened, Afghanistan war, and we're not here to debate whether those wars were good or bad. We're just talking about strictly that you went out to service. How did that come about?
It was about a year. It was about a year because I went in open contract, so they put me in different jobs, and if they didn't feel I met the qualifications for the testing for those jobs, they would recycle me or throw me somewhere else.
Yeah.
So then when we went on ship to the Middle East, there was suicides, there was people killing people, there was people getting hurt, breaking legs. Like right off the bat, even before we hit the Middle East, there was shit happening.
So it's kind of like being in jail where there's always activity going on.
It was negative activity. I seen some dudes. We were at a mall parking lot. They had a fair that they decided to do at a mall out there outside the base in North Carolina, in Jacksonville. We used to call it J Vegas or Action Jackson. And there was some black dudes that they were claiming, I think, that they were Cripas, they were Crips.
Okay.
So they bump into some youngsters that are from South America, from Ecuador, and the dude's wearing a red shirt, and they have words, and they start a big old melee, a little riot, and they start boxing. Well, the blacks that were in the infantry attached to our unit, they pull out fucking K-bars and fucking shanks and everything, and they start sticking these dudes.
Wow.
And these dudes are youngsters.
Damn.
And the dude's fucking body's convulsing, his fucking shirt, he's bleeding out like the Kool-Aid man and shit. And this lady's holding him in the parking lot. And so I have my Dickies button-up shirt, and I'm taking it off. My homie from the Merced area, he grabbed me. He's like, "Nah, man, he's dead. Let it go." He was in the infantry, right? He said, "Let it go." I was a support to the infantry, right? So that was a close proximity, less than 12 feet of death right in front of me. Again, outside of boot camp, just in training.
Yeah. So this is even before you actually went to actual war.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already crazy shit happening.
Yeah, left and right, there's just stuff, but it's no different than the streets.
And you told me that they were gangbanging in there too, right? Like repping Norte and Sud and Crips and Bloods and Latin Kings and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, you would see dudes without their shirts tatted out with the New York Bloods, United Blood Nation, with the paw, the dog paw. I would kick it with dudes that were Northerners. Sometimes I talked to dudes that were Southerners. Because you need
5%ers. Were there 5%ers in there?
No.
Okay.
I didn't see any 5. That's a prison gang.
Okay.
Yeah, 5%ers is like a Muslim prison gang, and they're the reason why the Latin Kings started in New York. I seen Latin Kings. I seen Nietas.
I've heard of them.
Trinitarios, Norteños, Sureños, a lot of white supremacists, KKK people, Crips, Bloods, what the disciple ones with the Star of David from Chicago.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Some of the Texas gangs, the Tejanos that were like Texas Syndicate or Tango and all that, or Sudan, Mexiculi, were on ships. Some of the Navy people. It was just like a city within a city. You had good people. You had drug dealers. You had degenerates, homosexuals. You had just thieves.
Prostitution
Was big because you got that many men, so people need to feed the beast. You know, you need to get off.
Fools weren't in there busting each other's cheeks, were they?
You know what? Yeah, it happened at the base. There was probably, and I want to ballpark it, there was probably 18 or 19 rapes.
Wow.
So we were coming in.
Of men or women?
I think only 3 or 4 were women.
What the fuck? Wow.
You know what I mean? So this guy we were coming in a little van. He was giving us a tour, and he was like, "What unit are you going to?" And I told him, you know, 2nd Mardiv or whatever. He's like, "Oh, that's an all-man unit. You guys have no access to women. It's going to be tough for you in here." Like, he was some white boy who was seasoned, who had a cool little job, and he was just laughing. You know, he was seasoned.
Yeah.
And a lot of the seasoned dudes don't help out 9 out of 10 times the newer guys, right? So it was tough for me. It was tough. Eventually, I started getting into trouble and fights and just stopped giving a fuck. And I transferred out of that unit to a headquarters unit. Then I got out and I came to California. And I went to the units in California, the Bay Area, and the reserves. But it was a hard transition. A lot of racism, a lot of long days. You really have to read or work out or do something to keep your mind fed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I started having nightmares, and PTSD started to really catch up with me even back then.
Yeah.
And so when I'd go home, I'd get off on people. If you crossed me up, I was coming for you, bro. I'd get into a fight or pick up some women, smash out some women, and then dip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not right, but hey, man, I was trying to survive. You know what I mean? I was out. My whole mentality was, I don't give a fuck. I gotta survive.
Well, I
It's
mean,
hard. I'm
you're
poor.
trained to think like that too.
Yeah,
You know,
well, at some time I didn't see the difference between the streets and the military. You got to understand
yeah.
that the leadership of the norteños
Well,
and
I'm saying
Norteños,
the military trains you to be like that, and the streets train you to be like that to some degree.
yeah, and then I read that this guy from San Jose, he gave me a video, a DVD, when that guy from Salinas called Blood in the Fields came out.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've actually talked to that dude before.
And then I had bought the Robert Grattan book and read it. It's worth $1,000 or whatever, the hard copy, and I gave it to my brother through a police
You're talking
site.
about what's the name? The
Rise and
dude
Fall
who
of the
made
NF.
Charlie Trujillo, right?
No, the Rise and Fall of the NF.
No, 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 no. The dude who made the documentary about the Chicano Vets, the dude with no eye.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about Blood in the Fields, where it talks about that dude with the green eyes that killed
Oh, never
that
mind. I'm
person at
thinking of
Cap
something else.
Saloon.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. My bad.
Yeah, so I didn't have a big homie who I could call when my brother's older homie, he was Apache Chicano Norteño. He used to kick it in Stockton. You know, I'll leave his name,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, out there. I couldn't call him and be like, "Hey, what do I do?" Until I caught a case later on, uh, fighting some sheriffs, right? So I eventually do my time. I get through it. I get in trouble. They take money, rank, or whatever, but they don't strip me or kick me out, right? I'm able to keep my head afloat. So then I get out and I come to California and I see the way the bases and the reserves do it in the Bay Area. And it's like all the bases are in a city: Concord, San Jose, Alameda. You could go get burritos. You
Yeah,
could go pick up on some women. You stay at nice places on base or at a hotel. Like the lifestyle was like way different. I could go
yeah,
back to the Central Valley. Like these guys thought it was torture for them, but they never knew torture. You know what I mean? And then I left to Russia. I left to Afghanistan. I left to Kuwait. I left to Hawaii. I left to all these different places, right? And training in Southern California and in Virginia. But a lot of the people that I noticed from the East Coast, they were very racist and they were a lot stricter. And the people from California tended to be a lot more lax with the rules.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and if you were Raza, unless you had rank, they were always coming for you. Whether you were Puerto Rican, Dominican, Chicano, Tejano, Mexicano, you had a harder time to survive. It seemed like the black and white narrative existed in the military even, and the Native American dudes were usually like infantry.
Okay.
So I was attached to a recon unit in the Bay Area. I was attached to an infantry unit. My first deployment, I was attached to a sniper unit. What that means is that you either drive them, you provide ammunition for them, you're there as a support, like a backup, a homie, or just like they're Batman, you're Robin.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
get it.
so I worked my ass off. I started going to school when I was in the Bay Area, trying that out, and I was like, "Fuck, I need to get a tutor because this is hard." I've been in for so many years. I'm starting to forget shit. PTSD and the sleep apnea is catching up to me.
How many tours did you serve when you finally did go out there? If you don't mind me asking.
I served 4 tours. 2 of the tours are not considered combat, right? Because we're in like former USSR, Russia, Riga, and Latvia, and all that, right? But the Russian mob rushed us out there. So that is not considered combat, even though I got extra money for being out there, right? And we got into a big old brawl at a bar because they ran the prostitution, the brothels, and the casinos, and the vodka, right? So, and I went to Hawaii and I was involved in a serious collision because I was driving a bus and this dude in the Air Force caught me. So there's no such thing as an easy tour, in my opinion, right? And when I was in Afghanistan, everybody's trying to kill you. When you're moving from base to base, or when you're on the base, there's open spots. It's real out there. The Taliban has access to the bases. They're selling stuff. They come in as merchants. There's always shit popping off, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
People getting kidnapped. There's people from Philippines and Africa prostituting themselves. It was just a fucking mess, bro.
Kind of like they say in Vietnam. I heard stories where they would send little kids to like toss grenades at soldiers. Yeah.
There's always, you got to watch your back, bro. It's like living in deep East Oakland or East Side San Jose or any place in California. It's boring, and then it's crazy. Like drop of a hat, something happens. You're never safe. You always got to keep your guard up, right? So I go through all that. Eventually, I get out of the military. Get out as an NCO with a decent rank. Wish I could have gotten higher, but I ended up getting into a fight out there in the Central Valley. The sheriffs say that I sucker punched somebody in the face, that I fit the description. I didn't, but I was drunk. I took off on them, almost lost my life, and they almost popped my heart with a taser. And I'm not saying it to brag, or as a matter of fact, I'm just saying what happened.
Yeah.
In my family. So eventually I get out of the military and I start to go to school full time in the Bay Area. And I start stacking my money, working odd jobs. But the things that I realize is it's hard to get a job. They'll look at you like a paisa and try to give you some slave work, like manual labor work. So that meant working back in the fields. That meant working recycling metals on base or whatever other little like stuff I could do, just like any other paisa that you'd see in the Bay Area that are doing to survive, recycling cardboard, recycling cans, doing the grunt work that nobody wants, the slave work.
Yeah.
And people only look at slavery as a black historical thing. They don't look at it as an indigenous historical thing or as a Chicano historical thing or as how we're still oppressed. So I realized two things. A lot of people don't want to be indigenous. They rather act white, dress preppy, be a coconut, or get with the black slang because black people are respected in the music industry and selling drugs and all that. So people would do that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take the indigenous identity. I'm just going to roll with it.
And you learned that in high school, though, because of those dudes that would come to your school, right? The indigenous part.
Okay, so the dudes that came in, I want to make this abundantly clear to you and your viewers.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who came was Apache Mescalero, Red Hawk, who had been to prison, who was a brown beret, who was in a biker gang, a Mac rep, and a Pachuco. The other person was he's now deceased, but he was from West Side Modesto, and he was a norteño, Salvador. And the other people were Maestro Macedonio, Maestro, before he passed away, Jose Montoya, his curriculum from New Mexico, Pachuco from Albuquerque, Maestro Arandas from Watsonville, and a couple other dudes that were affiliated with Darkroom Familia. Mainly one of the dudes that came out on the music video Handful named Victory.
Oh yeah. Your homie you told me about?
Yeah, he's with El Bu now. So these guys went in after school with a couple other people, Dragonfly and a few other people. I just met Jamon and another two dudes, Dragonfly and there was one other brother too that I just seen him. I'll just call him Citlali, right? I'll just throw that out there. And they were part of the Modesto Junior College poetry group called Los Rudos off of the wrestling. So they invested their time at our high school. We painted a mural. They fed us burritos. They gave us T-shirts. They made necklaces. They took us to Saca Lake in San Diego. They took us to Watsonville to sweat. They had activities and funds from the county and the state.
That's pretty dope. I wish I had people like that when I was in high school.
So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the funds were supposed to go to Oakland or the Bay Area or LA. But instead they said, well, wait a minute. These guys here don't have anything. We need the funds here.
Yeah.
So they were diverted. So we got the funds. And we got the cool T-shirts. We got all this. And I was coming back from the Midwest. So when I went into that, I was like, man, this is like devil shit. Because I grew up Catholic.
Oh, Catholic, yeah, I get it, yeah.
I had family.
Same thing with me, bro. I was growing up to believe that anything indigenous was brujeria or it was this or that.
Well, on my mom's side of the family, you got to understand, my mom, they're third generation Tejanos. So they're married to white people that were Dunkard, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, born again Christians, Southern Baptists, all these other religions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are we? Where are we from? Like, my dad's a paisa from Mexico, and my mom's from Texas, and her family's mixed. Like, where are we from? What are we? What am I? Why is my family mixed? That's like some big city stuff. That's like some
Yeah.
Bay Area or LA stuff where you got a mixed family, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I grew up like that. I didn't understand my family. My aunt was with some Filipino dude who was a Crip from Stockton. So they have Filipino kids and half Raza. And my aunt was on drugs. And the religion couldn't save her from drugs and hanging out with gang members and people out of prison. To this day,
Yeah.
I think she's with white dudes out there in Reno and all that. My uncle's a drug addict, gambler. So I started seeing what the effects of drugs at an early age in my own family. My uncle was a super J cat. Now I'm not saying it to clown the dude. I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm just saying it to tell you what it is, what it was,
Yeah.
what it still is. So they worked in the fields, and most of them bought houses and are married now. Right? They made it. My grandma and all my grandparents and all these older people, they're deceased. They're gone. They're in the spirit world. So the indigenous gave me an identity. I was looking at it for an identity within the gangs and the drugs. So people base their identity in the Bay Area or LA off of gangs and drugs. It's their identity, right? But they can't tell you, not everybody, but they can't tell you a couple words in indigenous. They can't tell you where their family's, history is, other than my family's from El Salvador, my family's from Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we're in Oakland. We've been here since the 1940s, right? That's kind of the claim to fame. Or we've been in LA since the 1920s, right?
Yeah.
So my family had been just as long in the United States as most of these people that would tell me, oh, well, you're not from the Bay, or you're not from LA, or you're not from whatever their little.
Well, you told me some of your family even lived in the Bay Area back in the 40s, right?
Yeah. So I believe in the 20s and the 30s is when they came from the Mexican Revolution. They came to Arizona, San Diego, Los Angeles. This was my dad's side of the family, right? And they kept going up, and they came to San Francisco and all that. Me personally, in the 90s, the Bay Area was just out of control with the gangs. So when we'd come for something involving church or pupusas or just kick it with some people from my high school, it was in and out, or a school field trip, an outing. And I would just see lots of people just gangbanging in the Mission. I'd see a lot of blacks in Oakland. I'd see a lot of Raza in San Jose. But I didn't know that they lived in garages like sardines. I didn't know that people's life was just expensive and miserable, like the military or prison. They left all that out. They would just, most of the people from Oakland would say, I left Oakland and we had issues with blacks. They would come and rob us. I had issues with blacks. They're bad people. They come and break into my house and steal stuff or steal my bikes from my yard. All the people from Oakland that were Raza or Chicanos, they always said the same story.
Yeah.
Right. All the people from San Jose were like, we were cruising. We were by the Coliseum. It was party, party, party. There's hella women. There's hella alcohol. And they left the whole part about people living like sardines. Just the same thing with Oakland, right?
Yeah.
And the other people,
San Francisco too.
yeah, well, the San Francisco people weren't there in numbers.
Yeah.
It was the people from like Fremont, Hayward, Dakota, and they never said anything. They just said it just got too expensive wherever they were at. It was just they just got up and left for whatever reason,
which is typical.
Yeah, and there was a lot of girls that be like, I'm from Barrio Dakota, and I'm like, what is that? What is a Barrio Dakota? What is a Irvingtown, Fremont? What is a North Hayward, South Hayward? Like, that didn't mean anything to us there.
You also told me you met people from Quince and those gangs too, right?
Yeah, Quince, Jingletown, ESO. They would tag ESO, and I'm like, I guess ESO is one hood, just like San Jose, not knowing that it's several federations or power groups, right? So for somebody who's an outsider, that was just weird. I just knew that when I was in school, we couldn't wear anything Fresno Bulldogs. We couldn't wear anything blue. We couldn't wear anything red. And I did the opposite. I wore all colors, and that got me a lot of wrecks. So why is it we can't wear blue? Why is it we can't wear anything with the Fresno Bulldog? Why is it that we can't wear red? Not knowing that the prison politics in the neighborhoods were being brought to the high school and being enforced out there by people.
Yeah.
I mean, so you know, it was a weird time, and a
So
lot of women wanted to have sex with me, and every dude wanted to fight me, and I couldn't understand why. Why is it that people that I don't know from other neighborhoods want to get into it with me, and they don't even live in my neighborhood?
yeah.
So
I mean,
people,
it's typical. You
yeah.
know,
So those years, once you got out of high school, all that changed. You started seeing less and less of those people. A lot of those people ended up moving, dying, getting locked up, being on drugs.
yeah.
And then more Bay Area people started coming in. More LA people started coming in. More people from San Francisco, Daly City started coming in. More Central American people started coming in. And they were feeling like they got evicted out of the Garden of Eden, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them have suffered from PTSD. And the thing is that when it comes to PTSD, nobody cares if you have it.
So
There's
let's
nothing.
take it to that section now about
Okay.
PTSD, because that was one of the main topics we want to talk about. So PTSD is basically post-traumatic stress disorder, and most people feel that that it's something that's only for people that go to war. I
That's
mean,
not
that's
true.
kind of like the general consensus, even though we know it's not. I'm just giving a breakdown,
Right.
and we're gonna talk about um, how people in the hood, people that grew up in Oakland or in the Central Valley or in San Jose or in San Francisco, in the Mission District or whatever, pick your fucking barrio or hood, suffer from it as well. You know what I mean? And how we don't realize it. And if you want to give us little pointers on how to realize it, you're more than feel free to talk about it. But let's talk about your own PTSD and when did you come to the realization that we all kind of have it to a degree?
I would say I came to the realization when I would hear a car backfire or fireworks or somebody creep up behind me or some noise, or I was a lot more keen to listening and
Mhm.
sizing people's body language up, that I was like, I got it. My sleeping is off. It's broken. I'm having a hard time sleeping. I don't trust people easy. I watch my back. I watch in the exits in and out of places. And this was because I grew up at violence at my house and in my community. Violence was an everyday occurrence. And our parents would discipline us pretty harshly. My mom being from Texas, she had that southern uh, hands. Her whole thing was, I gotta beat my kids down till they bleed and they can't breathe, right? With the branches, with what a black person calls a switch.
We all went through that. I've went through that
So
too.
I started researching and feeling that the indigenous people were subjugated the same way. So this was generational trauma inherited.
Yeah, I've heard that
And
before.
white people wouldn't hit their kids like that. Asians wouldn't hit their kids like that. Arabics wouldn't hit their kids like that. And I was like, this is a slavery thing that it's indigenous, brown people, and black.
Yeah.
So I started to realize that, and I started getting to community service. I started going to school, getting better grades, and my tutors taught me some stuff, and they taught me, you know, I had it. I have to breathe. I have to walk away. I have to do positive reinforcement, talk to myself in a positive way, hear positive words. And, being part of a círculo or a capuli, I learned that there was various steps, having an altar, touching into the indigenous ways, going out with Mother Earth, Mother Nature, stop drinking, stop hanging out at bars or strippers or with whores, and start working on myself. And in the hood, that's being soft. In the
Yeah.
hood, that's being a simp. But at the end of the day, when you're dead or in prison or disabled, there's always somebody harder. There's people wishing they would have listened to their mom or their grandma or be a simp
I
or
mean,
change their life.
look at like all these prison channels. How many of them say that now that they're older, they come to the realization, what the fuck was I thinking when I was young? I wish I would have did positive things then to be in a good place now.
But they didn't have the support group. They didn't have the resources. They didn't know how to change the network, right?
Yeah.
People push religion as
So,
if Catholicism and Christianity, we could just pray our problems away when we're indigenous people. Those concepts are foreign to us. We're raised to do that. And how many people really are practicing Catholics that show up to mass every weekend, Very few. So even in my older brother, who's a conservative cholo, he tries to dodge mass all the time, and his wife's indigenous from Yucatan and Jalisco. You know what I mean? Same thing with my other brother. Same thing with a few other people. My mom's indigenous looking. My sisters are indigenous looking.
Yeah.
But indigenous is one thing that we cannot be, because there's no reservations south of the border. We speak Spanish. We speak English. Very few people speak or understand indigenous language, and they're like, "Oh, go to prison. They'll teach you now what."
Yeah.
So I realized at an early age that I had PTSD. Like I said, I was exposed to violence. I was exposed to drugs, pornography, all these things before I was even 13 years old. I was getting drunk. I was tasting my first beer with my family like 5, 8 years old. I got drunk when I was like 12 off of malt liquor, Mickey's with my older brother.
Yeah.
Um, at 9 years old, I had to be a grown ass man. And in our culture, kids that are 8 or 9 have to act like full grown adults. They have the roles as full grown adults, and people don't talk about the pressure
Even
on an
some of the
eight.
girls come sometimes too.
Yeah, the pressure that you put on an 11 or 12-year-old, and even at that age, people are talking about
What's up,
gangs
fanboy?
or hanging out as peewees. So that's an issue. Breathing's an issue. Uh, Being sexualized, and feeding into the beast of the sexual industry. Being in the military, we'd hit up every strip club, every fucking massage parlor, every prostitute. I could talk about this now. Every fucking single mom, every fucking MySpace fucking whore. We were dropping it on everybody's lady, bro. You know what I mean? And it was an addiction. Sex was an addiction. Violence was an addiction. You need that. You were a speed junkie. You were needed that adrenaline rush. Getting
Yeah.
into a fight was addiction. You know what I mean? Watching videos was an addiction. Watching pornography was an addiction, right? So all these things, there's nobody in the hood or your own family that can help you with those things because they're so complex. It's
Yeah.
PTSD, very complex. So you go to the hood and you think somebody in the Bay Area or in a big city is going to help you. The answer is 9 out of 10 times they're not, because the government doesn't want to get sued for those issues. Selling you alcohol on the base and all this other shit. So you have to bend inward. So a lot of the old timer Vietnam vets, what do? 1%er groups, prison gangs, going to prison, starting up the Nuestra Familia and all these other gangs. And the cycle continues.
Oh yeah, some of them were war vets, huh? Some of the originators.
Some of the originators were combat, Army, Marines, Special Forces, veterans. And those are the people that are looked to get into these groups. They're handpicked and used to come into these organizations.
So I have a question. If someone out there felt like they had PTSD, what are some of the signs they should look out for? Because you're knowledgeable on this.
I would say simple things like being cautious of your breathing being off, your sleeping being off, you flashbacking, you see a color or you see somebody coming and you're like, oh shit, is it a bullet? Car misfire. People from Oakland and big cities where they see violence every day, they have PTSD. The PTSD is a trigger of remembering something over and over. Your friend gets shot in front of you in the hundreds, Bridgestone.
Yeah. You mean Bridge Hunted?
Or Bridge Hunted, yeah.
Somebody said Tibbs was a Vietnam vet.
Yeah, and the guy that killed him too was a Vietnam vet who was in the Marines, which was the guy from Tulare. What is it?
Not sure.
Robalcaba, Cuete Robalcaba.
Oh yeah. I've heard of him.
He was a Marine vet.
But back to what we were saying, the signs of you might have PTSD, or maybe you
Paranoia,
out.
schizophrenia, trembling. When you're shaking, you get the shakes. You get random goosebumps. You get escalofrios. Cold chill. Well, you're basically PTSD comes from women that are raped.
Mm-hmm.
That's the diagnosis because they were raped brutally. They have that memory and they don't trust men, right?
Yeah.
So PTSD is seeing somebody killed in front of you, or seeing some sexual or murder or act that it replays in your head all the time. Your back, the homies are always drinking with their backs on the wall. PTSD.
Yeah.
Generational trauma. A lot of Raza brown people have generational trauma because of what was done to the indigenous ancestors with the Spaniards and the Europeans, and they don't know they have it, or their parents, beat the mom, or drunks. Generational trauma. I mean, these signs are very, very, very pronounced.
So, do you feel if someone feels they have it, should they go get themselves checked out?
I think they should. I think they should go to a therapist, pay for a therapist, or go into the community in Oakland, San Francisco, San Jose, and get a therapist, or the Central Valley, Stockton, Modesto, whatever it's going to take. Fresno, Sac, you pick your city and seek out the help until you get help.
Yeah.
Or if you have a pet, talk to your dog for an hour. Pets are really good at dealing with PTSD.
Mhm. They do
Go,
say, I
go
think
for a
the
walk.
Aztecs believe that the Cholos Squinkles and the Chihuahuas were healers, had healing powers,
Oh, the Cholo Squinklies?
and the
I think so.
Chihuahuas too, the original ones, the ones that were the Chichis. Those were the original Chihuahuas.
Well, some of the dogs were, the Cholo Squinkly was supposed to be the dog for the underworld, a god.
Yeah.
But also, the Cholo Squinklies were eaten as food.
Oh yeah, I heard about
People
that.
forget they were also eaten as food. Sort of to different people, they have different meanings. We could say this is what we think, but we weren't there. We're going
Yeah.
off of books written by white people, or sometimes rarely by Raza.
Because I've heard Chihuahuas too, bro. The original ancestor of the Chihuahua, supposedly they were used as medicinal purposes, especially because of their heat. People would use them as water packs, kind of like when you use a water pack when you're cold, when you're sick. That's
Yeah,
what I heard. I don't know, but that's what I've read.
I I believe it, man. Every animal was sacred. I think that if I'm not mistaken, the Cholo Squinkly is on the Mexica Sunstone calendar.
Yeah, and
End of
for those
December.
who don't know, besides the Cholo Squinkly, the the ancestor was called the Techichi, and it was also a relative of the Cholo Squinkly. It was just a hairier version of it.
Yeah,
People don't know that. People don't know that.
and it's just not a big city like South Central LA. PTSD is widespread. Mental illness. I mean, you see a lot of the people that are homeless or on drugs. They have forms of PTSD, bipolar, schizophrenia, flashbacks, traumatic brain injury, rape. Well, you got to think, just like the indigenous people of North America or California, rape, molestation, racism, poverty, neglect, abuse, abandonment. We all suffer from that. But people wear their masks every day. I'm tough. I'm from this hood. I do this. Whatever they got to tell themselves. I'm a Christian, a Cristiano. I read the Bible, and whatever they put the mask on, they just smile at everybody, knowing deep down inside they're hurting.
Now, I got $1 million question for you.
Shoot it.
Do you think the whole, and we've talked about this in private in the past, do you think the whole machismo, the whole I got something to prove, I'm so hard, I can't seem vulnerable ever, do you think that's a form of PTSD?
Yes, hands down. Because you're
Okay.
projecting an insecurity on other people. You're being a dump truck. Whenever
Yeah.
they come and pick up your trash and they're speeding away, the dump truck is the papers are flying, the trash is flying, it's leaking out, seeping out, right?
Yeah.
That's how people are. When they're full of their problems, they let loose,
Yeah.
you know? And a lot of men don't have a positive outlet or programs to get into. I think there's only like one program in Oakland, like Courage,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or some other program. For a city that big, or like San Francisco to have Homie, or San Jose to have whatever they have, Santa Cruz to have Barrios Unidos. That's one program to serve 250,000 people. It's just not a priority.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, PTSD is not a priority in our group. Helping out veterans is not a priority. Helping out people who sell drugs, who are gang members, is not a priority.
Now that's the one I want to get to now because you are a war veteran, you are a military veteran, and we've talked about this before. We've talked about how you feel that society has shunned you, especially other Raza organizations or some indigenous organizations. You feel that there's not enough done to help war vets. Being a Chicano war vet, let's talk about that, the struggle of being a Chicano Raza war vets, because we don't hear that in these platforms ever, bros, hardly. So it is a good, that's why I brought you on to talk about these points, because they're points that are not really talked about. And before you start that, we're at the hour mark. Let me ask my audience, how are you guys liking this interview so far? Because I want to get more into interviews with people. Leave it in the comments. Tell me, is it productive? Do you like it? How you feeling it? But yeah, man. So, what do you feel the struggles of being a vet, in a Chicano Raza vet in particular, and some of the problems that you have faced being one, not
I
just
would
with
say,
organizations, even with the government itself.
I would say you're misunderstood and you're stereotyped because it's a black and white narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And secondly, more importantly, is your community doesn't have anything for you to help you. They're ill equipped. So if you were a veteran coming from El Salvador or from Nicaragua or from Honduras or from Peru, you have nothing coming either in the Bay Area, in Los Angeles, and California.
Hey,
There's
keep
nothing
on
there.
talking, bro. I just gotta step out for a quick
No.
second.
So if you were a person who was a veterano of your neighborhood coming from prison or drug addiction or drug dealing, you have nothing coming either. So in general, either way you look at it from different points of view, different facets, different from this pendulum, right? Multifaceted uh, situation, you have nothing coming. Um, because the resources and the priority there don't affect the community as a whole. It only affects a
Huh?
portion. Veterans only make up less than 2% of the population.
Yeah.
So at 2% of the population, 2% is like the Native American population in the US, 2%. So therefore, it's not a priority. Helping women through WIC vouchers, divorces is a priority. Helping children is a priority. Helping elders is a priority. Men don't really get any kind of help. There's no men's group or men's building in Oakland, in San Francisco, in San Jose, in Sac, in Stockton, in Modesto. There's no priority for men. It's toxic masculinity. Uh, you're sexist, you're xenophobe, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just the finger pointing that you're the issue, you're the problem, but there's no resources or help to assist you. So a lot of woke Chicanas, brown women, Central American women, South American women, it's like, I want to be with the white man because he's got power. I want to be with the black man or whatever because they're going to treat me better. They're super romantic and you are emotionless or whatever. But they don't offer any kind of stability, any kind of support, emotional or financial or anything. You're on your own.
You have told me that even some political organizations, I'm not going to name no names, but you've said that some have kind of shunned you for being a military vet.
Some organizations from the Chicano movement in the Bay Area, even though they had a small percentage of Vietnam vets that are Raza, didn't like the fact that I came from that background, right? Didn't like the fact that I do community service in various parts of the Bay Area and beyond. And they would tell me how they felt about me. But the trade-off was, but do this favor, provide security, bring some veterans and provide security. Do this for me, do that, help our organization out. Big fish eat little fish. It was, what can you do for us? It's not about you. It's what can you provide to put in work for us? And a lot of groups like that in California are like that.
Mm.
Whether they're Chicanos, whether they're Central Americans, whether they're brown people, Southern natives, whether they're California tribal groups, it's what can you do for us? Can you put in work for us? Can you prove yourself for us? So don't ever expect anything from anybody because people don't care. When you have no expectations, you can never be let down. So in big cities like the Bay Area, you have gentrification, high rents, police incarceration, police shootings, gang violence, people getting robbed, people getting raped. You have new people coming in that don't know the language, that are defenseless. Those are all priority things that take priority over anything else, and presidents, because those affect most of the population.
Yeah.
And I ain't dogging anybody out. Hey, if somebody's coming here to this country, teach them English, help them get their GED, diploma, help them get stable. But don't pick and choose and play the oppression Olympics of who has it worse and how you have to prove as a man that you have it worse.
Yeah, the Russian Olympics, that is not fucking productive whatsoever. I don't give
And
a
I
fuck.
see that, really pronounced in the Bay Area. You
Yeah.
have some raza that gets Southern indigenous brown people that get power, women, men, and they've never had it. So to hone the power, I call it the Fidel power of scepter of power. It's all about them and
Yeah.
how you can bring comfort and convenience to them.
It's
Anything that's not going to benefit them, they don't touch it.
That's
So the
just kind
weapon
of. I
situation, they don't
think
touch.
Martin Luther King talked about it. He talked about the dangers of being black and fighting racism, but then becoming racist yourself.
People become what they hate. We've
It's
all
kind
been
of
there.
something like that. Yeah.
We've all become what we hate. We've all done it, including myself. Um, people were racist towards me, and I was racist towards other people.
Yeah.
People said some shit about me, and then I would retaliate. Um, so hurt people, right? It's hard when people are fighting for the meager bologna sandwich of resources, and not enough of it's going around, right? And
Yeah.
when it comes to different people, you have to literally kiss their ass.
Yeah.
That's what people want you to do, is to submit to them.
No. I get what you're saying.
And that's the way the system is, the Western system. So they're just paying it forward. What was done to them, they do it to other people. So when you're in a place of power, absolute power corrupts. So a lot of people feel the same way I do,
It,
even on your channel, even some
it's
of your
kind of
guests.
it's kind of like me, bro. Like I think I told you this. Like, a lot of times, a lot of guys like us, we go through a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, through a lot of suffering. And when it came to the dating field, for many years, I felt that I was ugly, that I wasn't worth a woman's time. And then once I learned, that none of that really matters. All that matters is that you're as long as you got a mouthpiece and you got confidence and you know what you want, women they're gonna be receptive to that. Once I learned that, I even went through a phase where that anger from past rejections made me a fucking monster with women, bro. And I did not respect them nor gave a fuck if they had a boyfriend or who I was gonna hurt. I went through a phase like that, and it was dangerous, bro. It's kind of scary thinking back on it, bro. But I went through that because the hurt of being rejected in the past by women made me not give a fuck about them. Once I learned, I guess what we call quote unquote the game. You know what I mean? Does
Well,
that
yeah,
make sense?
it ties back into what I'm saying: PTSD,
Yeah, that's what I'm.
generational
Yeah,
trauma, abuse, neglect, getting your get backs or your revenge on other people that are innocent. You know,
I didn't mean to laugh. I thought of something funny, but we'll talk about it in a minute.
So and sometimes we end up having angry sex with women.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
caught myself having angry sex with women,
Yeah,
and these women were indigenous people just like me and you, bro. It's
yeah.
not the outside; it's what's in your heart. Same thing with being indigenous. It's
Because I
not the
went,
outside;
I
it's what's in
went
your heart.
I also, bro, went through a era through a phase that I would say was a sex addicted phase, bro. And when I think back on it, yeah, it was fun, but there were negative aspects on it too. Thinking back on it,
Yeah, you're out there having unprotected sex. You're out
yeah,
there
you're just
having
not
sex
giving a
in
fuck.
public. You're out there with women, and you're treating them like meat, just like society treats them, bro. And there
So,
are people.
so I'm thinking about the story you told me. That's why I'm laughing. And I want you to share it a little bit about the story. And this was a time when I was in pain, bro. When I was
Right.
going through a lot of bad stuff. I'm laughing at the time you said you first met me, but I don't seem to remember it. But what tripped me out was that you described me to a T of how I was looking at the time. That was funny. And for those who don't understand the backdrop, at the time, this was about 10 years ago, I was going through a lot of trauma and through a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. I was going through like some depression kind of. So I wasn't my normal self. That was one of the reasons why my channel had stopped at that time, was because of this. But I'm just laughing at what you said. Let them know what you said when you met me at First Fridays. And I don't even remember that, bro, honestly.
So I see somebody roll up and they're indigenous looking. What I mean indigenous looking or phenotype is somebody who's brown skinned
Yeah.
and has the thick black eyebrows, but the sun's in their eyes, so they're making the war face. Long hair in a bun, white
Basically, el
t-shirt.
nopal en la frente.
Yeah, just straight up indigenous, straight up, Indio. And they roll up super close to me and they're talking about clothes and at the time I was a vendor, what I had, this and this and that. And then I see Jose kind of timid and he kind of tippy toes on the opposite side. And I see him. And Jose's got this like dazed look of like 1,000 miles stare on his face. Like he's
6,000
there,
here.
but the house has got the lights on, but nobody's home.
Yeah.
And his shoes are all scuffed up. They're all beat down to hell.
Were they Adidas, bro?
I just remember your shoes. I looked kind of
Yeah.
like glanced. They were like jacked up. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was the laces. I don't know if it was the bottom. I mean,
Yeah.
just something of your presence was off-putting. Your energy was off.
Yeah.
And so I just, I'm nice to say, hey, how you doing? Such and such person from such and such place. This is what I'm doing. And you're like, hey, bro. And you kind of lean in and you kind of have a real, like, honest voice to you. And you're like, we're broke.
Yeah.
And we're not going to buy anything. We're on a budget. And we're about to dip. We just came to check you out real quick because you were kind of in the cuts. And your friend, his PTSD fucking comes out and he's like, man, I'm from Acorn Projects, West Oakland, and I can't wear this color and I can't wear this, and I'm like, okay, just don't buy it. If there's a certain color or there's a certain logo that you can't wear, don't buy it. I'm not here to endorse gangs.
Yeah.
I'm not here to do all that, right?
Yeah.
And he goes on and on and on and on about his life and about growing up in poverty and in gangs and having it bad. But he still lived in that area. Right? He had done nothing to fix his situation.
Yeah.
He was just venting, which he didn't have anybody else to hear him out.
What tripped me out is the way you described the way I was dressed, though. That's the one that tripped me out. I'm like, wow, maybe he did really meet me, because you described what I was looking like at that time, and it was a trip.
I can't remember what kind of shirt you had, or if it was a zip-up hoodie.
I think I was wearing a hoodie back then, bro. I always had this old, crusted up hoodie. I looked like a fucking bum at the time, bro. And you said that I was wearing some acid, like stonewash pants.
Yeah, and I think you had some weird glasses. Maybe what might have had tape on
it. Yeah, I had those fucked up glasses that broke. I remember that, bro. That's weird that you remember that, bro. I remember that, bro. I was going through a lot of fucked up shit during that time, bro.
And I was like, damn, this homie. I wasn't thinking you were bummy. I was just thinking there's something wrong with him. He's going through something.
I don't know
what it is, and I'm not gonna pick at it and be like, hey man, did you do something in your family? I'm just gonna let you be.
My dad was dying at the time, and I was going through some head. I don't know, something in my head wasn't right at the time, bro.
And your homie was just super aggressive and mad. He was just like,
yeah, he was. I know who you're talking about. Trust me, I'm not gonna say no names, but
he was just like, he was on a good one, and I'm like, damn, this dude's like a pit bull off a leash. He's just ready to go for no reason. I'm like, okay.
It's just crazy because that's a complete about face of who I am today, bro. It's just like sometimes you go through struggle and you just have to pick yourself up from it, bro.
I mean, channels like this are therapeutic. Even for the prison genre, what they go through, this is the way they can kind of heal and let it out. Right.
And if you guys watch my video called My Testimony, I think I talk about that I went through a time where I was going through some trauma, But
like I said, 9 out of 10 times, a lot of people, they're in insanity. They do the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. With mental health, they'll pray about it, they'll work, but it's deflection and avoidance in our community. People don't care to take care of it, and people don't care to help people with it.
All right. So we've been talking for an hour now, and I'm gonna leave it up to you, bro. Do you want to have guests, or you just want to just keep it between you and me?
When you talk about a guest, are you talking about a singular guest, or are you talking about guests, several guests?
No, like, if anyone wants to join into the conversation to throw in their 2 cents or maybe have a question for you, I'll be very specific. We're not joking here. This ain't what we were doing the other day. This is more of a serious topic. That's why I have the homie kickbacks for we could joke around. And so if
Yeah,
anyone
I mean,
wants
if you have one other person that wants to jump on, that's going to come respectful with no penis pictures or anything. Hey,
yeah, no fucking penis pictures, no haters, no cheeseburger jokes. Even Big Mike, if you're on here, bro, it's all respectful tonight, bro.
yeah, we can discuss questions, we can discuss strategies and what healing looks like. And healing looks. I'll just say this before we get somebody else out here. Healing for each person is different. What works for me is not going to work for everybody else.
Yeah,
People they know what they need to do, and they need to figure out how to do it, or ask for help and be humble.
yeah.
If you're unwilling to do that, you're just going to deal with your whole life ahead of you in pain and agony, and your mask is going to crack.
So
Drinking and the women, that hole that you got in your spirit that's gaping, you're going to fill it out with food and sex and drugs. You could have it all: food, sex, and drugs.
So
and then you're not going to fix it.
Before we have anybody join us, we're going to give you one last word of advice or whatever to the people out there watching before I put the link up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I would say most people don't lose hope. Number one, don't lose hope. And number two is think about what you say and do. Ask for help. Tomorrow's going to get better. Everything changes in this life. This world is in motion right now as we're moving. Me and Oakland United here are having a conversation, and the world's moving.
Yeah.
Tomorrow can be a different day for you. Suicide's not the answer. Drugs is not the answer. Not the answer. Violence is not the answer. Remember, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. You're only as good as the good decisions that you make. If you falter and into peer pressure, or you disappoint yourself, pick yourself back up.
Yeah.
Keep trying. But more importantly, what are you doing differently? What are you doing in your life that's different that you haven't done before? Because you can't pray yourself out of this problem or work your way out of it. So, use your resources. People.
Oh, go ahead, my bad.
Oh, yeah, all good. So, in conclusion with that, I would say that the best thing to think about is mental health isn't a joke. Mental health is your wealth. The more you invest in yourself, the more you invest in your future, and the more you control your anger and your decision making, the better tomorrow will be in your future for your family and for generations after you. So make sure that you think about not the today, not the tomorrow, but the future, instead of the right now, instead of the I need this, I need to do something while I'm mad. Don't react. Respond differently.
For sure. And my saying always is don't be afraid to let go of your ego. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. And sometimes you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable in certain situations. And that's what I'm going to leave it at. So I'm going to leave a link. If anybody wants to join in, there's the link. Please, no haters, no dick pics. Don't come on here joking around. We're not here really to joke today. It's more, just we're talking about some serious stuff that happens to our Raza and that we deal with. So if you want to come on, there's a link right there. You could, if you have any questions for my homie Mazatal or any questions for me or anything like that, you know what I mean? Come positive, come correct, feel free and join. One of my close family are stuck in the 90s. I pray for him all the time. Yeah, some people are stuck in their time. For sure. I know I'm not. But if anyone wants to tap in, there's a link. But yeah, man, so how you liking the interview so far, bro?
It's cool. I think it's going to help somebody, one or two people. It's informational. It's something that's not really spoken about in detail. And I hope a lot of people get some out of it.
My homie Sneaky Beanie from Southwest Detroit is joining in. You heard of that neighborhood, huh?
Yeah.
What's up, brother?
Yo, what's up, Joaquin, Jose?
What's going on, Carnal?
Going on.
Here, man. Um, I have my question is like throughout the whole time you had went through different experiences and just like people come and go in
Mm-hmm.
your life. How was the acquaintances that you had? Well, did you have acquaintances throughout everything you went through, and how did that play out with your situations?
Excellent question. So a lot of the acquaintances that I had were either workaholics, they were in gangs, they were in some sort of organized religion, and even the people that were in the indigenous ways, the minute they stopped that, they got back onto drug addiction. They went back and moonwalked back into the old ways. So a lot of people died, or they moved away, or they, like I said, they pray their problems away, or they work their problems away. So a lot of them, I'd say probably about half, maybe more, I haven't seen or spoken to, including people in the military. There's a lot of people that I was with in the military that I didn't connect with again.
So you
You
clicked
know,
off or something.
so to answer your question, a lot of people that you meet in life, you meet them for a split second, and it's either going to be a memorable interaction or a negative interaction, and you got to get something out of both interactions.
Somebody said in the comments on your tours, did you ever meet any CIA operatives?
Maybe in Afghanistan,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, those
those
people.
those dudes go to like fucking Colombia and pick up hookers and stay in hotels and just fuck around.
Yeah, and most likely they're not going to tell you who they are.
Yeah, but you'll get that vibe off of them. They're all fucking egotistic and monumental egos. But the thing I forgot to say was a positive mind, focused mind helps out a lot. You
Yeah,
know, and not only that is if you think positive, you do positive.
yeah, for
Think
sure.
negative, you do negative. So it's these energies, you know, they connect you closer or further away from your goals. And if you have goals and ambitions, that's a start. If you're hopeless, it's going to be difficult.
My homie Shortcut, who he lived in the same hood that I used to live in on East 7th Street. He joining in. You have any questions, bro, or anything you want to add on to the
Yeah,
conversation?
yeah. What's up, bro?
What's up, Carnal?
Shit, I was just without getting too political, what's your thoughts on Ukraine?
Oh, simple. I believe that we should stay out of it. It's not our fight. I believe that we have problems here we have to deal with, and if World War One, World War Two, World War Three is going to kick off, they're only going to want Raza and minorities, brown people, Southern natives to go and fight that war. And then you're struggling to get your benefits when you come back. Just like the World War Two vets that were of color, like Raza.
Do you
And
think it's going to end up in a nuclear situation?
maybe just like Japan. They hit Japan with those nukes and stuff. I think that the U.S. and everybody knew this was happening for a long time. With Crimea, somebody should have stepped in, the Allies or somebody in the coalition forces, the UN. So they got us all weak because we've been to Iraq and Afghanistan and all that stuff. But go through the deep East Oakland. Where's the resources there? Where's the
Yeah,
resources for our youth that are out there gangbanging, that are out there on drugs, vaping? No protest there. We're genociding our own race out of existence because of these gangs, prison gangs, street gangs. Where's the help for that? But we want to go help these Europeans because they're worthy, but yet a little kid from Mexico or Salvador, an indigenous kid,
and he goes to a
gets in
cage.
a cage. They just use you, bro. You get pimped out. I'm just keeping it 100. I'm gonna use street lingo here. You get played like a video game, and you become a puppet on a string, just like the gangs that go to prison.
You get
You
played
know,
like a violin.
you get paid like a Nintendo game, homie. Duck Hunt. Take it old school, throwback. So, for somebody in the hood, leaving the hood to do something different or going to war is not on their priority list,
Yeah,
especially when you're in the Bay Area and you're trying to make it.
yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? So My opinion is that it's not our fight. Now, if there's nukes involved, they came and they nuked the U.S. or they did something crazy. Probably everybody's gonna have to get in the mix of that. But where do you think they're gonna pull their manpower from? The barrios, the indigenous reservations, just like they have all the time. Our value goes up, just like before the gentrification in the Bay Area. A lot of houses and a lot of neighborhoods didn't have value.
Yeah.
White people move in, the values go up. My value went high in 2001. And with war, there's opportunity.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. You're a homeowner too, huh?
I'm a homeowner. I'm a vehicle owner. I vote. I have money in the bank. So what I'm going to say to shortcuts is this. I don't know how old or how young you are, but I'm going to say this to all the viewers. There's 5 things that a lot of the European people do, European Americans. I'm going to use the word European Americans.
White people, basically.
Yeah, Westerners. They have money in the bank. They vote. They have their own home that they own. They have a business. And they have higher education. We as Raza struggle to even get 1 or 2 of those things. Because we don't feel part of this society. We don't feel part of this world. We're like the peasants, the serfs, the proletarian people. And they're the bourgeoisie. We're the servants. We're the indigenous slaves.
And for those who don't know, proletariat means worker, bourgeoisie means like the rich working class. So the rich class, basically.
Yeah, the concept of ownership came from Europe during the Conquista with Hernando Cortés, Pizarro, Christopher Columbus, and the list goes on. So I think personally that a lot of Raza needs to think about the world that we live in and how to help each other. We have, from what I see in the Bay Area, we have different little groups that help themselves out and their people, right? They're like little tribes. But unless you physically make changes in your life and drastic changes, you cannot grow or survive in the California, the adult Disneyland of tomorrow. That's anybody. You have to change. Instead of buying the Jordans or going to the club, buying a case of beer or some marijuana from a dispensary, you got to save some of your money. Put it in a bank account, a bank, CD raw. What is it? CD something or a money market account, and start stacking your money. Open your own little business, make your own clothes, slang it. We're consumers, bro. We do what makes us feel good. Sell some tacos, some Tex-Mex, some indigenous food, whatever you got to do to survive. That's legit. That's legal. Because everybody dives into the illegal benefits, and people don't realize this. The only real gangster is the United States government. Everybody tries to emulate the United States government and its gangster ways. There can only be one gangster, one godfather, one don.
Tell them the U.S. government's the biggest pimp.
Yeah, but everybody wants to be a killer. Everybody wants to be a drug. We already got a bunch of those people in federal prison and in jail and in the cemetery. Where are our doctors at? Social workers, counselors, healers,
teachers,
good fathers, good sons. That's what's missing. I get we live in the hood and it's poor and all that. Move out. Get out, dip. Don't limit yourself to the hood. The hood ain't going to change. The neighborhood gators and the block barbarians, the gorillas, all these like the wolves, all these like names of predator people, they're still going to be there. The sharks. Spread your wings and fly away, bro, if you can. It doesn't make you a coward. It doesn't make you less than a man. It just makes you more versatile.
What's your take on that, Shortcuts?
No, I'm just listening to the homie. He spin that game.
For sure.
Yeah, man, I'd be doing a disfavor to Jose and to myself, to everybody, if I didn't come with honesty and with some critical thinking, some analytic thinking. It's nothing wrong to love your race, your neighborhood, your territory, your culture. But how is that helping you advance and be a better human? If it's not, you got to push the pause button and reset and say, what am I going to do to be a better person? Because this isn't working out. And that's why in the barrio, being a savage, being psycho, being crazy, being 5150, being loked out, it's deemed as a status. It's deemed as positive. Reading books isn't.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
talking about positive things in general.
positive things. If Jose said, okay, let me get 10 of my viewers, we're going to go on a jog at Lake Merritt. Fuck that. I don't want to go.
That's hard work.
I got to work.
And we know for sure Fat Mike wouldn't go.
Yeah. You know,
Quick joke.
Yeah. You know, we'd be like, hey, you know, we're gonna go clean up High Street. We're gonna walk down with some garbage bags. And we're gonna pick up all the beer cans and trash. Fuck that. Well,
I'll be there all year.
What? You tell me what to do. You're my boss now or what?
Yeah.
So that simp shit, you know, I ain't down from that shit. I'm from the hood, from the town. This is the way it's supposed to look. People don't have pride in even sweeping their sidewalk or their curb or their own house. The pride of keeping your chin up and your head down isn't there unless people are high or drunk. And your kids and your nephews and your nieces and your neighbors, they're watching, bro. And they're soaking up everything that you're doing. And there goes the next generation of broken people doing stupid shit.
Or remember in the old days, the infamous, I don't do that. That's white people stuff.
Yeah, or they'll tell you, oh, Jose and fucking Malanali Kali, you know, oh, you guys act white. You're acting all entitled. You're acting just like them, bro. You're crazy. You're talking all weird and shit.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. Oh, you're weird. You want some weirdo shit. I've heard that one too.
Stop acting white. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
You know, so at the end of the day, the OGs were supposed to school up the youngsters, but they started using the youngsters to do missions and do gang shit. You see, people don't respect their fathers that are paisanos, that are workers or immigrants. They respect the neighborhood dope dealer, the gangster, the pimp. They respect what fantasy power people hold, not knowing that it's all fake. It's a fake identity.
Yeah.
So I would say that
it's a slave master's mentality too, like that.
Yeah, don't be a slave to the neighborhood. Don't be a slave to the drugs or the hood or having the nice clothes. Because if you're living in Oakland, a nice car and some nice clothes don't mean shit unless you own property. Get the property. Get a fixer-upper in the Deep, in Stockton, in Modesto.
Or in Richmond.
In the Rich, San Pablo, Montev Manor. Do what's going to help you and generations after you. Sacrifice for the right people. Don't sacrifice and get used for the neighborhood for the wrong reasons, because that makes you a puppet on a string. You know what I mean? It makes you just like, you're gullible. You're a crash dummy. I don't know if you remember the crash dummy commercials. You're too old, you know, young or old for that. But people will get sent on kamikaze missions, bro. You know what I mean?
This one homie from Oakland wants to tap in. Let's see if he taps in. He said he has a few questions for you.
Well, is Shortcuts done?
No, I mean, we could have a panel with more people.
I just want to make sure I answered his question, though.
Is that enough, Shortcuts?
I'm right here, bro. Y'all just sound like robots right now.
Well, why? Your reception's bad? What's up, Don Suave?
All right, what's up, Jose? How you guys doing, panel? What's up?
I'll be back. Hold on.
How you liking tonight's discussion?
Oh man, it's great. Yeah, no, great interview, Joaquin. Yeah, you're definitely giving us a lot of great information. But I definitely had to tap in because I got a few questions, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first question, you mentioned that you worked in the fields early on. Now, did you work for a major grower or kind of a smaller grower? The reason I ask is I wanted to know if there were any protections for the workers that kind of the UFW were working on, like, you know, brakes and protection from the sun, and like, did you notice any of that kind of stuff going on when you were working there?
So I work for both. So if you recall, I reiterated the fact that as a young man, I did that for the summers back in the 90s because my parents both were farm workers. Eventually, my mom got some community college, got out of it, and my dad ended up working for an Italian factory with the Teamsters and Jimmy Hoffa, where they would freeze the vegetables. It no longer exists in the Central Valley. Those that know, those that don't know. So at first, one of the places that was run by, I believe, some Portuguese or Italian people, they did offer a bathroom break, or they did offer a lunch break, right? Because this was on their farm property, and they did have people to crack the whip, like themselves, and obviously another Raza girl, indigenous, who spoke English and Spanish. I was 13 or 14 at the time, right? Youngster. The other places didn't offer squat in Fireball and up down that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was like no water breaks, no bathroom breaks, no protection from the sun. You had to clean and fix the irrigation pipes for the fields.
Oh, man.
And it didn't matter who you were, what you were going through. This is me coming back as a veteran because I couldn't get any other job, right? This is in 2009, 2010. So there was drastic, I would say, pronounced situations where, yeah, no, maybe so, depending on the location where you're at. So if it got hot, you had to tough it up. Put a bandana on your head,
Yeah.
do what you do quick, and then, run back. When we're working in the almond orchards, it was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
No breaks, nothing. And I had a paisano that was like, you had to specifically prune or shear or rope in the orchard almonds in a certain way. And he wanted me to fucking, the first time, it had to be on point. And it's like, I've never done something like that. I usually cut and stacked fruit to dry.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the irrigation canals.
Could
And
you do work like that, shortcuts?
But what?
I didn't grow up doing that kind of work, so to me, it's like, wow, it's a learning experience.
Yeah, and the knives were hooked. So if you cut the apricot or a certain fruit a certain way, the knife's got a hook, so it'll slip and it'll run through your palm.
Damn.
And it'll cut it like butter because it's like a parrot beak.
Oh, that's terrible.
But you need the money, you need the new clothes. Your parents can't buy you the nice stuff, so you got to fork up the cash. It's either that or go to the East Bay and do landscaping to come up with the cash to get the nice pants, the nice clothes, and instead of sharing clothing with your brothers or hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
We're talking 90s, mid 90s, right? So I did whatever jobs were available, and that's all that's available, versus somebody who has access to a factory or warehouse like in the Bay Area. It's indoors.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I never picked no fruit, but I used to fucking go clean banks and fucking loncheras with my parents, though. Like at midnight, nigga, I was only like 10 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't a competition. This isn't, Oppression Olympics. I just,
No, he asked me. That's what I'm saying. I didn't get to answer him.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was just wondering if there's been any. I mean, if you noticed any protections, but I mean, that's terrible to hear that that it's still. I mean, it's these kind of things are still happening. I mean, this was probably the 90s, right, or 2000s, or right?
No, it was from the 90s to the 2000s. So
yeah.
I started not seeing any protections back in 2009, 2010 in Fireball, where I went out there in parts of Stockton, where I'm out there driving a truck and I'm working with Central American people, and they felt some type of way. And a lot of these dudes, and I don't know if you guys recall, they were having the gang indictments on the MS in Mendota, in Santa Cruz, in Reno, in Richmond, and in San Francisco during that time. So a lot of these dudes were trying to say like, oh man, I see you got a spray painted shirt or an airbrushed hat or a jersey that has your neighborhood, or it says something Central Valley, like we're connected with the MS, we can get you smashed on.
So they were gangbanging in the fields too, huh?
They were banging, and I was just like, I'm fresh out of the military, in shape, youngster, and I was just like, look, dude, I'm driving the truck. I don't give a shit about no gangs. I'm wearing some old clothes from high school, some old stuff that I was still. You got to think, I'm still in my 20s, so I still was trying to live my childhood. And I told him, man, we could just run a fade or let that shit go. But again, they felt a certain way towards me, right? So when you're in the fields, bro, it's another little monster. It's another little world when you're working with people that are undocumented, Chicanos, gang members, Central American people. It's a very, I'm going to use this word, cannibalistic environment.
Yeah.
So we were driving, and I was driving this truck with the work truck with the small low bed, and the tools fell out from the back, and some people in a little sports coupe went and picked up the tools and then dipped, and I chased them in the truck, bro. I was smashing, bro, hitting $120, and this truck chasing these people down until we came to a light, a stop sign, and I jumped out. And I'm like, "Where's my shit?" And they gave back the tools, and I got in trouble for that.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
When we're
Definitely.
vulnerable people, you're exploited. So anybody who's vulnerable is going to get exploited and used. And as brown people, as Southern Indigenous people, we're exploited people. We're a people that are slaves to this day. Whether you're working at a taco truck or you're cleaning out a bank or you're out in the fields or you're in the military, people are just using you for whatever you can do for them. They don't care about you.
Yeah.
And my second question has to do with PTSD. Another thing that you mentioned that stuck with me is you mentioned generational trauma and also that poverty can also trigger PTSD. And a lot of us that grew up in the inner city, we had to deal with poverty. And
Oh, yeah.
that a fix for this PTSD is getting therapy, and that is challenging because sometimes depending on who your healthcare provider is, you have to get referred to get therapy, and if you don't qualify for that, therapy is a lot of money if you have to pay out of pocket, and so that's one challenge. The second challenge is in the Hispanic community is so taboo. You know what I mean? Where on my Facebook feed, I see other cultures. Like I remember I seen one post where this lady was like, "Well, I'm looking for a therapist, preferably a lady of this nationality." To her, it was nothing. She was just looking for a referral. It was like normal, But I would never think of me doing that. Or Jose, would you do something like that? Hey, I'm looking for a therapist. Blah blah blah.
Probably
Preferably,
not.
yeah. Hey,
Probably not.
preferably a Chicano,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the Bay Area. You know what I mean? It's something very taboo, right? You know what I
yeah.
mean? But to her, it was no thing. You know what I mean? But so it's you know what I mean? I don't know if I see it being less taboo in the culture, but I mean it's growth to be able to overcome that taboo. Obviously,
I think in our culture is definitely that afraid of going to the doctor, afraid of being checked because it's looked upon a certain way.
Yeah,
I'm not going to the psychiatrist. That fucking means I'm a JCat. That
right.
kind of mentality. You know what I mean?
No, and lastly, it's a lot of work to work on your mental health. You know what I mean? It's like ongoing work to do
Oh
so.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people just don't want to put in the work. So, those are the roadblocks I see in the way. And
Yeah.
just what I remember you saying, Joaquin, is that nobody cares if you have PTSD, but we certainly care that we have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to add something. So you're right about what you said.
Mhm.
It's a stereotype, and it's also a bad highlighted thing that we don't like to talk about or even go through.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want change, if we want real productiveness in our own selves, and we demand it, then we got to figure something out.
Yeah.
So I offer these solutions, right? Breathing exercise every day. A minute or two, you breathing 50 times. You closing your eyes. You rubbing your temples. That's free.
Yep.
If you have a dog, you talk to your dog for 45 minutes, or your cat, or your gerbil, or your goldfish, your tarantula, your snake, whatever. Boom. Or your abuelita, who cousin with Down syndrome. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
That's free.
Yep.
You go outside and you go for a walk. Mother Nature is going to embrace you. The wind, the plants, the birds, and you just go for a little walk around your block. That's free, right? Also, You cook something healthy. You eat some fruit, some veggies. When you're cooking, your mind is on what I'm making. Now, I'm not talking a cup of noodles or burrito that you're cutting up that you bought at on East 14, E1 forward.
Hopefully, Big Mike is taking notes.
Yeah, or you're being of service. You go and you help your abuelita. You help somebody in the neighborhood, that abandoned house that's got the grass like the desert. It's just this massive cactus plant of luscious grassland right there and foliage. You go and you cut it, or you sweep your little sidewalk where you're at. When you're sweating in your movement, the endorphins in your head are kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wants to do any work. They want instant gratification. Smoking weed, hitting the liquor store, having sex, getting into a fight. That's all instant. Watching a movie.
Smoking KJ.
Smoking the glass dick, whatever. That's all instant. So nobody wants to put in the work, even with the stuff that's free. We just offered a few things. Going jogging. I'll offer another 5 things. Going jogging. Doing some yoga, some stretching in your backyard or in your room. Okay. That's 2. Listening to your favorite song and singing it. A little karaoke, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's this song that's emotional that you love. Boom, you bust it out. Now you're singing, right? It's lightening up your mood, right? And also, and again, I just offer this, is you write it on paper, all the people that hurt you, all the stuff that you're feeling on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're writing, I'm disgusted in my grandpa, I'm disgusted with people in my neighborhood or whatever, and then you burn it in your backyard. A little lighter, you burn it. And you might have to do this a couple of times, but it's a release. It's a release, right? And then lastly, I would say this is something that people can do on their own if they choose to. They pick somebody in their circle, unsignificant, girlfriend, wife, anybody, abuelita, abuelito, uncle, nino, nana, whatever. They call them up. Hey, how are you? I know I don't call you or visit you, but I just want to tell you that I love you. I just want to check in with you and just let you know that I do care about you. Those words of expression, that vulnerability will get your mind off of your PTSD and what you're going through because you're being of service to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
like I said earlier, the problem is that we have this growing up like in places like Oakland and in the ghetto and the hood, pick your ghetto, but we have this mentality of, I got something to prove. I gotta be hard 24/7. I gotta fucking, if I show any emotion, I'm not a man, I'm a bitch. We have that, and that's a fucking problem. And that's, I've been trying to tell people that for a long time, that we have a fucking ego that we have to learn to let go of sometimes.
Yeah.
That's why our youth get killed on the streets. That's why black people murder each other left and right because of this fucking ego. Not just black, but Raza as well. And it plays into what my homie is talking about. You feel me? I let go of that ego a long time ago, bro.
Yeah.
Somebody calls you a bitch in Oakland. Okay, you're with your family. Are you really going to go test the waters knowing this person's got a gun or a knife because he called you a bitch?
How do you think I got made fun of last night so badly by everyone, but it didn't faze me, bro, because I let go of my ego, bro. We were just fucking clowning each other last night, bro, on Dankin' and Crankin's podcast. I didn't give a fuck, bro. It didn't even register to me, bro.
Right.
Because I don't have that ego. I don't have nothing to lose, bro.
It's like
say whatever you want about me, that I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm this and that. But you know what? At the end of the day, bro, I'm Oakland Latinos United, and I'm actually doing something about it. And I have my own channel, and I talk to different people, and I look at different resources. So I don't need you. You could say I'm ugly, but you know what? If you ain't helping me, it's just words to me. It don't mean nothing to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Real
I'm
talk.
giving you an example.
Is that if you got to think about it, is if you're thinking outside the box, if you're being holistic and healing, if you're doing something you're uncomfortable doing, maybe that's the right path for you. If not, you can continue on your same path with the same results of insanity. And so, this platform and this speech, I'm supposed to tell you what you don't want to hear. I'm supposed to tell you a different opinion outside of your own. And if I don't do that, or the people that you talk to don't do that, then there's no reason to talk, because everybody's just going to agree with you and say, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. And you're gonna be stunned and cap off, and you can't grow from that. You're gonna hit bottom out and hit a ceiling instead of moving forward. And the thing is, a lot of people in the hood tell other people what they want to hear. They're very manipulative and charismatic. They tell you
Basically, there's not a yes man.
Yeah, I mean, good lip service. Yeah, you doing cool, man. It's good to see you, brother. This and that. Oh man, I got love for you. Holding it down out here in the hood. Da 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 da. We're gonna catch up and drink later. Da da da. And they'll be like, oh man, fuck that. They ain't doing you or anybody the next man a favor. And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people need to realize is they need to wake up. Yes, you're in an Oakland, it's dangerous, or in Stockton, or all these other places, Fresno, Modesto. That place isn't going to change. What are you going to do to change? What are you going to do to change the way you respond instead of reacting? We're trying to save lives here. You know what I mean? What are you going to do differently? Are you just going to let anybody push your buttons and just say, fuck it? Or are you going to be like, you know what? It's cool. It's cool, I'm pick and choose my battles. And that's what most people don't know how to do. They just know how to get angry and just be like, fuck it. I ain't no bitch. You know what I mean? And that's the situation where it's like, that's a problem within you. You let somebody degrade you and make you feel a certain way. Like Jose said, people were roasting him, weenie roasting him, talking all kinds of masa about him.
They were even roasting Don Suave.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
they said he looked like a world. You know what they say? He looked like a World War One. Those air pilots.
Yeah.
And the glasses.
Like that.
Red Baron.
Red Baron.
Yeah. With the scarf flying in the thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's our ancestors went through so much, and instead of honoring their legacy, we kind of spit in their face with some of the stuff that we do, and the addictions that we're dealing with. Why isn't anybody protesting in Oakland or Stockton or Modesto or Fresno? We want a space for therapy from the community. We want our own space to do our own thing of holistic healing or indigenous healing or whatever other thing that they could do, making art, cooking food, walking the dog, at a little space, for Raza. But they don't do that by design. So people revert to the liquor stores down the street conveniently, the dispensary, marijuana dispensary that's like 2-3 blocks away from everybody's hood. And people do the same things over and over. You know what I mean? There's no outlet that's positive other than the same problems we've been facing for the last 50, 70 years. And that's my thing that, I don't understand. Any hood, whether it's Detroit, Tennessee, North Carolina, that has Raza coming into work, those hoods all look the same after a while, bro, with the same problems. And nobody's bringing in real life solutions.
Yeah, I got another question real quick.
What's up?
I remember this cat I used to go to high school with. He was kind of like a little nerd or whatever. He didn't kick it. He didn't smoke or nothing. He did his work. So, we thought he was a square. But I remember he graduated. He ended up going to the Marines. And I guess, he let loose in there. And then he would post some crazy ass shit on Facebook. And I guess he kept on like re-enlisting. Did you ever see that type of shit where like nerds would go up in there and just go crazy and shit?
Yeah. I mean, just, even people that were immigrants, even people that were, chunky, even people that had issues with health. You have all walks of life, bro. It's a city. But what I was going to tell you is,
that's kind of
what do you call a nerd?
The cop to kick ass.
Oh, no, I mean, back then, to me now, like, even when telling the story, he was just a normal student. He would, like, pay attention and did his work.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's, what do you call a nerd? Your boss.
The what?
So the joke is, what do you call a nerd? Your boss.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is that the problem in the hood with the street politics, the prison politics, the biker politics, that's only good for the hood. You can't bring that into the workforce. You can't bring that into the university or college. You can't bring that into a family. You can't bring that into the military. So, you know, loving your hood and being down and being from a certain neighborhood, there ain't nothing wrong with that. But it's what the neighborhood or the things that you do for that neighborhood that make it bad for you. And so I think that a lot of youngsters, we glorify gangs, we glorify the culture, but at the end of the day, you're a crash dummy, a puppet on a string. You're being used for all the wrong reasons. That's not going to be the only people that are going to try to be there for you on the long haul is your abuelita, your mom, your sisters, and even after a while, they're going to throw in the towel and say, "That's it. I can't send them no more money. I can't be there for them." You know, Jose did a video of him going through an Oakland cemetery or East Bay ceremony. What is it, cemetery? And there was all these Raza people buried there.
That's where my mom's buried.
And nobody protests and nobody's bringing that up about how all this Raza got killed in drugs and the gangs. It's a forgotten.
Yeah. No. You know, when I was walking through that cemetery, it fucking tripped me out because it was a Catholic cemetery. But every fucking grave I would walk through was a youngster, bro. Raza youngster.
Damn.
And I was counting their ages. They were all between the ages between like 17 and 21, bro. Hell of them.
Man.
I'm not talking about one. I'm talking about I must have seen like 20 graves like that, bro. Some of them even were freshly dug, bro.
Oh man.
Yeah. And that was eye opening. And I made the video right there on the spot.
You know, and you know, you're getting a lot of people that are fatherless. Like my homie, I'll give you an example in Salinas. He was a cop. He was in the army, and he came out of four brothers. He was Nicaraguense, but he was born in San Francisco. And his brother was a cop, and his brother put pressure on him. He's a big dude, a rather pugnacious Amazonian type of brother. And he went over there, and he was there a year. He bought a house in Salinas on the east side. They were giving him hazard pay for working in the barrio called East Side Salas a la Sal neighborhood, where all that razas like clumped in there. It looks like kind of like East Oakland, Fruitvale. You know, it looks kind of like Mission or East San Jose, West Modesto, South Modesto. It's just, you know, clumped up raza in one little area. And, you know, you see Mexico and El Salvador and the Central American countries come to life there. You know, people are selling underwear and boots and all kinds of weird shit, but candy from Mexico. And some people, that's a release for their PTSD. It's comfort food, right? So he went there, he pulled over some paisano. The paisano jumped out of the car with the strap and just started letting loose. Boom, 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 let the whole clip. Before he could even jump out of the car, he was by himself. He had took some hits and he returned fire, but he got hit in an artery and bled out. And he died.
Oh, that's the homie that just got killed recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just got killed. You know, I lost contact with him with the whole pandemic thing. And thing that people don't know about him is he would go marching for the Cesar Chavez marches here in the Bay Area, like San Francisco.
Did you say he was a cop or something? Didn't somebody say that?
Yeah, he was a cop.
And people become cops, Raza, because they pays well. With a good wage, whether you're a cop or border patrol, you're sitting cool with some feria. You know, especially if you have another income with your lady or whatever, or you work two jobs, you're sitting good with money. That's why people do it. So he dies. I go to his eulogy. I can't cry, but I go to a Native American ceremony at a reservation at a casino, and I let loose. I fucking just cry my ass off for the dude. And I had these pictures from like 2016, 2017. I sent them to his family. I'm like, he didn't like to take pictures, but here's him marching. Here's us posted up at the gym. And I shot him the pictures, and they were all grateful.
Yeah.
You know, his lady was an alpha woman, so he had to go with her everywhere.
That's like me, bro. I think I was telling you this. I didn't cry at my mom's funeral, bro, because of other traumas that had already happened previously to
right.
That. And like about 2 weeks ago, I've been kind of emotional lately, bro. 2 weeks ago, I woke up thinking about my mom, and I just started fucking sobbing finally, bro. I kind of just let it out. You know what I mean?
It's good. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think more people should go. I mean, I think maybe keep doing that. You'll feel better. You'll feel desahogado. Go to an indigenous ceremony and let loose. I went out there and I cried my ass off, bro. And there was some indigenous people, Chicanos, Nike Cortez hat flipped up, t-shirts with the lowrider Some people wearing the patch of the United Farm Workers logo with the eagle with the Aztec calendar inside. But they were there as Chicanos and indigenous because we're the same people. Like I look at them and I see myself like that looks like my aunt. This person looks like a girl I used to be with. Like we look the same, right? When I see those indigenous, they eat together. People at the casino are like glued like this, feeding the machines. I never been to a casino. I never gambled, right? Even when I was in Vegas, I didn't see people at the slot machines early in the morning. But there, it was like people like this, bro. Veterans, Raza, Chinos, Güeros, bikers. Everybody was there at that casino, bro. And that was a trip. You went to go to the buffet, and there was maybe like 5 people. People were there feeding all their money into the machines. I couldn't believe it. I was like straight up dope fiends, but on the slot machines. And I think I would recommend to most people that haven't been to a reservation or indigenous event, go and cry and let loose your feelings and your emotions. You won't understand what they're saying and what they're doing, but your spirit will speak for you. That's what I did. That's what I did. I went out there and I let loose. And a lot of those people have alcohol problems, rape, molested, the most vulnerable people in the world. And a lot of those women are married with other people from other races that are white or black. Once in a while, you'll see someone with indigenous people there. The dude came out of prison 10 years and he goes back to his hyena. And he's telling me, I'm trying not to do drugs. I'm trying not to drink. I'm struggling. And I've been like, dude, I've been there. I'm sober 14 years of alcohol and drugs. I can go into a bar and get water or a juice or an energy drink. I don't need the drugs. The drugs don't control me no more.
Yeah.
But you take one addiction out, you have to put another one in. It could be food. It could be the homie with, the cheeseburgers or the bucket of KFC that might be hungry. He wants to get extra coleslaw and 2 scoops with the gravy. You know what I mean? And it gets right like that. So you take one addiction out, you got to put another one in. Maybe working out. Maybe going to these indigenous powwows. Maybe buying indigenous regalia. Whatever it might be, make sure
Or
it's
Dia de
positive.
los Muertos in Oakland, or you could go to Mexica New Year in San Jose.
Yeah, or maybe create your own event at San Antonio Park, Dia de la Raza again, or whatever you need to do. The thing is, you need to pave the way for yourself and your community. This whole thing about ego tripping and about I'm from this neighborhood or I believe all this, bro, that shit's for the birds. If that's puppy shit. If you really want to bless yourself and you really want to be there for your people, you got to sacrifice and do something that nobody will do. And then people will be drawn to you and follow you in a productive way. And it's nothing like Choloani, doing a cult or a sex cult or whatever,
Fucking weirdo.
Yeah, So I thought about that, bro. Everything that I've been going through, my little healing journey, I thought about that. And people school me up and tell me, hey, I see what you're doing. I'm a former Norteño from West Broderick or whatever. Be careful with the jokes because they could harm women or they could harm certain men. And I know you're just fucking around, You hear somebody else say something and you just try to put a spin on it. But it can hurt people. It can cut their spirit and their... the most funniest people are the most hurt people.
That's true.
So they get
I was just talking about the shortcuts.
Yeah, they get off making other people laugh because they're hurting inside, bro. Like Robin Williams and all these other people, like the homie that wants the 2 pizzas with extra toppings or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just the nature of the beast. But if you can't relate to the person who's talking and you can't respect them, the message goes over your head. When I looked at these indigenous people, I seen like we're the same skin tone, we look the same. I could they look just like Raza that you'd see in Oakland. The only difference is this. They're able to retain their land, their songs, their dances, their language. We're not. Because in order for Mexico and El Salvador and Peru to exist, the indigenous people have to be oppressed. And they don't do treaties over there. They don't give you your land and let you do your stuff. You can get hunted and killed like in Guatemala and Honduras and all that. So the difference is that we're going through an identity crisis. You can't be indigenous because you don't know your language. You're Catholic, you're Christian, you're everything but indigenous. You're acting too paisa, you're acting too white, you're acting too black. we're pretty much mentally fucked because other people give us guidelines and they run our program. We can't objectively be ourselves. If you're in Oakland and you don't got the Fly J's and the Louis Vuitton and the Coogee or whatever, or what's that other Italian brand?
Burberry.
Burberry. That's British. The Italian brand that everybody likes to wear.
Oh, Louis Vuitton.
No, the one with the Medusa.
Which one's that
Oh,
one?
Versace.
Gucci.
Yeah,
Versace.
Versace.
Yeah, Versace.
Okay. You don't got the Versace, but you try to wear something that's indigenous from Mexico or Africa or Philippines, you ain't shit. Now, the European people that are making that money are bootlegging it. They don't give a shit about us. But we perceive to impress people that we don't give a shit about, that don't know us, just so we can floss in the hood, just so we can flex, just so I can get noticed. Like that rapper Little Corner used to say, we use nice clothes to build self-esteem, like the Ed Hardy, like the Lacoste. We use it to boost our self-esteem, right? So how can we boost our self-esteem in other ways is the question that everybody metaphorically needs to rhetorically ask themselves. What can I do to feel better about myself instead of wanting attention out in the hood while I'm sagging my, tiger uppercut, slim 14 pants, and I'm walking around showing my nalgas, wearing a Louis Vuitton belt in the deep East Oakland. What
All
can
right,
we
man.
do for ourselves?
We're at the 2 hour mark, bro, and I gotta get to sleep. I work graveyard, so I didn't sleep very well today. But
Oh, you too?
man,
We're in the same club.
this was beautiful today, bro. I like having these panels. It's a good time to heal and talk about different things.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Mazatal, known as Joaquin Stanislaw here, joined us today. Hopefully in the future I could have you again, bro. We could talk about another topic. I always leave it at a last word for everybody. I'm gonna start with Don Suave. What's your last word, brother?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah. First of all, thank you, Joaquin, for coming on board. Again, I learned a lot from hearing your story, and my takeaway was to recognize the PTSD that we grew up with growing up in the inner city, and the generational trauma and growing up with poverty that also aids in that PTSD, and to try to remove that taboo of seeking help to get that mental help, so and you had addressed ways to, if you can't get therapy or whatnot, you address ways for free that you can work on today to help you with your mental health. So I'm gonna look back at this video and rewatch what you said. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave. Taso Kamatli means thank you in Nahuatl. I'll say this, be compassionate with yourself. We're our own hardest critics. I didn't stress that enough. We're harder on ourselves more than anybody else. So learn to love yourself. Learn to respond differently. And learn how to get through these issues. I see the problems. Offer yourself some strategies and solutions. Think about doing something that you would normally not do. Okay, I'm gonna do something for my son. I'm gonna fix his skateboard, his bike. I'm gonna help my wife out. I'm gonna work on my car. I'm gonna draw something. I'm gonna read a book. Do something that's gonna put a smile on your face and make you happy. Only you know what that is. I can't physically make anybody do anything they don't want to do. All I could do is suggest, listen, and offer some support. Now, find the support that you need. And remember, it comes from within. If you feel the calling from within your spirit, it correlates with your mind and your heart, you'll find the answer within yourself if you seek it.
So I'm gonna give it to Shortcuts real quick. His last word before I get off.
Nah, bro. I think that this shit was cool. You should have more topics like this, bro. Because I know personally, for me, it's hard to like admit that I got shit going on in my head. I'm not the type to go, hey, let me talk to you for a minute. I got, something like I need to get off my chest. So it's cool, it helps people like me and shit.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
there you go.
And Sneaky Beanie out there in Detroit, Michigan, in the Southwest. What's up, man? Any last words you want to leave it out with?
Yeah. Um, no, well, it was a great interview, and that the way we can relate to a lot of the things you brought up. It's very encouraging for us who don't really speak up much, and that hopefully we can be more open about these topics and stuff.
For sure. Órale, pues, Mazatel, I'm gonna leave you with the last words, and then we're done, bro. Cause I gotta
Well,
get
I actually wanted to hear what you had to say, brother. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
what's
wanna-
your last words, Jose?
yeah.
mine. Usually, I leave them when everyone gets off, but this will be my last words.
And I
Then
want to go to
I
sleep.
guess I'll do it with everybody. And usually, I do it when everyone gets off as my last words, but I guess I'll do it with the panel still on. My last words is basically thank you for being on the channel today, Mazatel. I'm glad you came on. I think it was a very powerful live. We we hit on some points that most of the Chicano or Raza or even prison genres don't hit on. You know what I mean? And that's basically what my channel is about. I like to do topics that'll make you think. And yeah, I like to joke around, obviously, but I like to do topics that'll make you think. It might seem depressing or whatever, or like too hard or too much, but sometimes we gotta get those hard fucking points in our heads for we can understand, you know what I mean, the bigger picture. So I for me, my last words is basically, you know, let go of the ego, you know, take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, you know what I mean? Um, Forget the bullshit you learned about the streets and the hoods. I'm from the fucking streets and the hoods too. You know what I mean? I'm no different than the fool who's a hardcore gangbanger. I grew up in the same environment he grew up on, and it don't mean shit to me because the hood, yeah, it straightened me and it created who I am. But at the end of the day, it didn't feed me. It didn't, you know what I mean? I had to learn things on my own. So don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. And don't be one of those people who are afraid to go seek help or go to a doctor or whatever. Do what you got to do to survive. I can't put a gun to your head, but do what you got to do for your well-being. Is what I mean. You know what I mean? And you know, hopefully, like I said, hopefully I could have you on again in the future, and I definitely want to start having more guests like this that want to come on and tell their stories. So feel free, like I said many times, to hit me up on private message on IG for we could work it out. If you want to come on my show and we could talk about, if you have a business, if you're an ex-gangbanger, if whatever, you know what I mean? We could talk about any subject you want to talk about as long as it's positive and there's something good at the end of the day. I'm not one of those people because you don't have a large following or whatever, I'm not going to have you on my show. No, I'm not like that at all. You know what I mean? If I'll have you on my show if you have something good to talk about. And I want to leave it at this: Chicano power, Mexica Tiawi. You know what I mean?
Yawi Mashika.
Power to the people, power to black people, white people, brown people, Asian, all people out there, man. I'm not a racist. It's all love to everybody out there. And, just don't be afraid to be vulnerable once in a while. It doesn't mean you're weak. It's just life. You don't have to be a fucking machista, hardcore cholo, hardcore fucking gangbanger, hardcore gangster. I'm fucking tough. You don't have to be that 24/7, man. It's okay, man. We understand. Shit happens and life happens, and sometimes you got to release, and it is what it is. So those are my closing words. If anybody wants to help, if everyone wants to support the cause, there's a link to my Cash App. Any little donation you want to give to the channel, help a brother out. Other than that, be safe, y'all.
Let's
Thank
go.
you, Don Suave, Shortcuts, homie Sneaky Beanie out in Detroit, and you too, Mazatal. Gracias for being on the show. And today was live with J number 62. Hopefully you guys are tapping in. What's up, baby girl Wendy? Hopefully you got to watch it live. But I'm out. I'm gonna talk to you guys later. Be safe. Late.
Sure. Thanks, man. Like.
Late.